Messi sur son pied gauche, il y a un bon coup à jouer pour les Parisiens. Messi qui va s'appuyer sur Mbappé. Messi, Léo Messi, l'éclair du génie est arrivé. Léo Messi
Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's show we're going to be covering PSG's first half of the season. We're also going to talk a little World Cup action. Joining me today to help break it all down is a new guest that you haven't heard on these airwaves before. Ethan is the president of PSG Fan Club Boise. He's graciously agreed to come on the show. Ethan, welcome in. Thank you for coming on the show. How are things in the Gem State?
Hey, thanks, man. It's pretty good here. It's, starting to get cold. Probably just like it is where you're at, but yeah, nothing crazy too far.
Are we ready to talk a little PSG?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Let's do it indeed. So I'm not sure if this is mathematically the halfway point of the season, but let's just call it that because it's what it feels like. Currently, PSG sit atop league on table with a comfortable lead over surprise second place Lens. And then they've yet to lose in Ligue 1 and only have 2 draws to their name. They have the league's best offense, defense, and they lead in possession and passes. Over in the Champions League, PSG remained undefeated, but because they didn't embarrass Maccabi Haifa, they finished second behind Benfica, which I'm still a little salty about. And now they'll have to face Bayern Munich in February in the round of 16 of the Champions League. So, Ethan, looking back at PSG's first 21 games under new manager Christophe Galtier, what has surprised you the most?
I thought Galtier I was really excited when we appointed him as manager. If you look back onto my personal Twitter way back, I did say it was pretty early in the Pochettino era, but I even said, man, I would like to have Galtier here. And so I was hyped when we got him. I did not think we would be undefeated at this point, through 21 games. I figured, because we've been outplayed a couple games. I would say the Monaco game, we were outplayed. Even though we beat Juventus just a couple weeks ago, you could say, if you look at the stats, you could say that Juventus outplayed us in that game, and Benfica potentially could have won one of the legs against us. But I didn't think we'd be undefeated. But if you had told me that we basically went 17 wins and 4 draws is what I think it is, and not won our Champions League group, I would have been pretty shocked. So that's a bit weird. Obviously, we were all watching and tuning in for that last match as we're playing Juventus, and Benfica they need 4 goals basically in the second half to win the group, and they get the last 3 basically in the last 10 minutes. So that was pretty weird. Although I don't mind playing Bayern. I'm one of those guys that as soon as we finished runner-up, I said, give me City, give me Madrid, give me Bayern. I got to beat the best to be the best. So, yeah, that's how I'd sum it up.
I mean, that's true, but we probably would prefer to be playing Bruges, I think, as Benfica they're taking on Bruges. So that would be nice, but yeah.
Yeah, Bruges wouldn't have sucked. I mean, it's just I think it was a week ago. There was this post that kind of went viral where it was basically explaining which teams get the toughest round of 16 draw the last 10 years or so, and we were rated to have typically got the most difficult round of 16 draw. So it's nothing that we are not used to.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've been battle tested over the years. We've had our taste of defeat over the years, and I love the Champions League. I've always said that, I think the way that they draw the teams is a little suspect. I think some of the rules, 2 English teams can't play each other, which then means teams like PSG get the short end of the stick because they've got to play one of the more difficult sides. So I just think the tournament, just by the way that it's been set up, is always stacked up against PSG, and then they get made fun of for not winning it. It's it's already difficult, and it's even more difficult for PSG.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, if you're in a league that's lower down in the coefficient, like Ligue 1 is in 5th right now, then yeah, it definitely is tougher, which if you look at it, people could argue, COVID year, but in 2020, when the semifinals were an all French and all German semifinal, statistically, That should not happen. So it was kind of incredible that happened, and it's whenever. I mean, no Italian teams won it since 2010, but even though Bayern beat us in that final 3 years ago, it's pretty incredible that a team outside of England or Spain was able to even win it, just given the amount of money that England and Spain has compared to. And yeah, like you said, those teams lower down in leagues, lower in the coefficient, typically have to play an English or a Spanish team, a real good one, real early on. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I think we can say, looking at it as a whole, there's been some ups, there's been some downs in the first half, but overall, we got to be pretty happy where things stand. We're relatively healthy. We'll see what happens after the World Cup. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I would say absolutely under Gaultier, there's been a noticeable difference than under Pochettino. So Gaultier came in and he immediately went to the three at the back. He tried to move some things around, and we've seen some success, but we've also seen some downside to that where teams can maybe open us up a little bit more. We get forward a little bit too much. But overall, happy with Gaultier compared to Pochettino. For me, it's like night and day.
Yeah, it's nice when the football is actually watchable now. Definitely. Yeah, it's been funky going three at the back, and then we had to switch to four just because of the injuries. I think it's funny how we were all pretty excited for the three at the back, thinking, oh, we'll be a lot more attacking minded, and hopefully that'll help the midfield out. I'm no tactical expert, but I was excited for it. Although it's funny that since we've gone back to playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, or it's pretty fluid, but however you want to call it, I almost feel like we've been playing better in that. And I'm not sure if that's because Gaultier is so used to playing four at the back, when he's been at Nice and Saint Etienne and Lille. Typically he was playing a 4-2-2. So I feel like switching from that to a 4-3-3 compared to three at the back is a little simpler. So yeah, I agree. It's been kind of a weird start to the season. I figured we'd be doing well, and I figured Gaultier would do real well, but yeah, the season has not gone kind of how I expected at the beginning. Kind of funky.
Yeah. And I think we all, like you said, we all wanted to see that three at the back, but we were kind of leaking in some goals and not as sturdy at the back as you would have liked. I'm a little disappointed in Marquinhos. I'll touch on him in a little bit because I'm going to ask, about some of your maybe disappointing players in the team. And he's certainly one that I think I expect a lot more at this point in his career. But I think the four at the back definitely strengthens it a little bit more. I think we have fullbacks that get forward a little bit too much. And I just think, I don't know, Ramos, we know his age. How much longer can he keep doing this at this level? I just get really nervous about our defense. So I think the more guys we have sitting back and actually playing defense is probably the better situation for PSG. Let me ask you about first half MVP. You have Mbappé leading the league with 12 goals. You've got Messi leading in assists with 10. So would you go with one of those players, or is there someone else in the squad that has been your most valuable player?
Yeah, I think this won't be a hot take here, but Neymar's got to be MVP of the first half of the season. He's got, I think I'm just looking at Ligue 1 stats, but he's got 20 goals and assists through our first 14 games. Messi is at 17 goals and assists, Mbappe at 14. But yeah, Neymar has definitely turned it on. I'm not sure if he's a little more maybe serious than before. Maybe he's a little more tuned in, or maybe if Gaultier is just using him better. But he certainly has turned it on, and I know us PSG fans don't hate to see it. So he's got to be the guy for me, first half of the season MVP.
He's just been outstanding. It's a good choice. I think you could certainly go with him, and I wouldn't argue with you. I'm only going to say Messi because we've seen what the team looks like without him, and even he's the GOAT. Let's just say it. He's the best, and when he's not in the team, it's noticeable how much the offense, that link up play, he's able to create, pick out a pass, and Mbappe's been thriving with Messi in there. So for me, I agree with you, Neymar, 100%, but I think Messi was probably going to be my first half MVP. It's hard to argue. Top assist, Neymar right behind with 9. Both of those players, I think, have outplayed Mbappe, and he probably doesn't like that. We're going to touch on some of the drama here in a bit at PSG, but those two players, Messi and Neymar, have just been playing out of their minds. And can they continue it for the second half of the season after a World Cup where they're both going to be giving their all? That's going to be the big question. So, in terms of switching gears here, though, who has been the most disappointing PSG player in your mind?
Ooh, for me, that's tough between Marquinhos has not been awful, I don't think. He's certainly been below what we expected, though. And Sergio Ramos started off the season really well. I feel like the last month there, his form was terrible, in my opinion. And, they certainly both have the ability to pick it up. But our center backs, like I said, I'm no expert as far as tactics or anything. And I certainly don't have a coaching license or anything. But I feel like our center backs just couldn't, balls in the box, they can't clear it. They're getting beat in the air way more than, we always know PSG is basically, if you're a lesser team and you want to try and beat PSG, you either got to play the way that Monaco did, or you need to just spam crosses from both of the wings, because we've always been susceptible to crosses. And yeah, I just feel like whoever's at center back, and Kimpembe had some good games, but even when Kimpembe came in, I just feel like whatever the pairing was for center backs, it was always tough. There's no reason we should have allowed 3 goals to Troyes in October. And I feel like, the league has been good, obviously, but we didn't keep a clean sheet in any of our 6 Champions League group stage games. And if we want any chance of Bayern to beat Bayern, obviously we're going to need to keep a clean sheet, or hold them to maybe 1 goal per game if we really want a chance. So I've been pretty bummed out with the center backs. What are you thinking?
I think if you go most disappointing, you have to stick with that defense. I've made no bones about it. I love Hakimi, but just hasn't been that world-class elite fullback that we all expect out of him. I expect more. He's got, just looking it up here, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists. I think if you're going to push him forward, he's got to be contributing a lot more than that. Marquinhos, I think, will probably be at the top of my list. Again, he hasn't been bad, like you said, but we just expect so much from him. He's the captain, and it goes back. Something happened against Real Madrid last year, and he just hasn't been the same since. I don't know if there's a nagging injury or what is going on with him, but he's certainly not that elite player. Maybe the World Cup will be like a little reset for him with Brazil. We'll see what happens there. Juan Bernat had to come in due to the injury to Nuno Mendes. He certainly isn't what he was before the knee injury, but I wouldn't say he's disappointing. Kind of he is what he is at this point in his career after a devastating injury like that. And Nordi Mukiele came in from Red Leipzig, right, I believe. And I had big expectations for him as well, even though I know he was going to be a bench player coming in. And he's had little blips here and there where he's performed well, but overall been disappointed with him. It could be maybe he's still getting acclimated to the squad and needs more playing time. But certainly when he has come in and play, it's noticeable. He jumps out at you as a player who's struggling. So really any number of those players could be my most disappointing. You have to stay on defense, like you said. But I would probably lean towards Marquinhos. So hopefully he's listening to this, and this will get a fire under his butt, and he starts playing a little bit better, because we need him. If we're going to win anything this season, we need the defense, and he's the leader. So we need him out there. We talked a little bit, Mukiele and some of the other newcomers. Is there a best newcomer this season that's really impressed you that, wow, you're glad that PSG was able to bring him in? Who jumped out at you as a newcomer this past summer?
To me, it's a no-brainer. Got to be Vitinha. He is if he keeps this up, what he's been doing, then we've for probably the past, I don't know, it feels like the past 6-7 years, we've just been saying, if we just get a midfield, if we just get another midfielder alongside Marco, then we've got we can make a run any year. And we tried a lot. We tried Genie, Wijnaldum last year, didn't work. We've tried other guys in the past. And I feel like Vitinha so far has been that guy that we've always been looking for as far as a midfielder. Vitinha, I as soon as we signed him for around 40 million this summer, I knew that was going to be such a good signing. I mean, he won more from the Portuguese league. He won more Portuguese Player of the Month awards than any other player last year, and he was basically playing as a midfielder or attacking midfielder. That's typically an award that you see reserved for strikers. I think Luis Diaz won a couple before he had transferred, but yeah, Vitinha has been great so far. Obviously, he hasn't been. I don't think he's been as good as Verratti, but the thing is, we don't need two guys. We don't need two Verrattis to win the Champions League in the midfield. We need a Verratti, and we need someone who plays complementary to him. And I think Vitinha's done great so far.
Again, I agree with you. I think it has to be Vitinha. It worries me a little bit that he's kind of taken Verratti, just following his lead in terms of picking up silly yellow cards. Wasn't it like the first couple of games he had picked up due to yellow card accumulation or something? He was suspended.
I think he got a yellow card suspension before Verratti this year, which I never thought that would be possible for anyone. But yes, he somehow he did it. Yeah.
So that makes me a little nervous, but he is by far right there. It's Marco Verratti is 1A and Vitinha is 1B. Those two guys out there, I don't think there's any question. In terms of our midfield, little disappointed in Ruiz and Carlos Soler. They've had their moments, but I thought, because I wasn't really sold on Vitinha at first, and I thought one of these other midfielders would come in and maybe take the job from him, but Vitinha's played well and has kind of kept them on the bench. So I think competition is good, so I'm glad we brought those players in and they can push Vitinha, and I think it's going to be Verratti and Vitinha in the midfield moving forward. Hopefully they can keep it up. But yeah, for me, definitely Vitinha. We haven't seen enough from the other players. They just haven't been able to break into the squad. He's really the only one who's been given the opportunity this season consistently. So yeah, I agree with you there. So it wouldn't be a PSG podcast if we didn't talk about some of the drama that went on in this first half of the season. If you remember, there was the penalty gate between Mbappé and Neymar, and then there are reports that Mbappé wants to leave the club as early as the January transfer window. So, Ethan, do you think that there is real animosity amongst the PSG superstars, Mbappé, Neymar, and Messi, or do you think this is all manufactured noise by the media?
I always listen to the podcasts that you guys have done in the past, and I actually just went back and re-listened to the one where you guys were discussing whether Mbappé actually wants out in January. Now, I went back and re-listened to that this week.
What stupid things did we say?
I wish I knew your guys' names a bit more. I don't know everyone's name, but I think a couple of you guys I think you were saying something like that you think he might really leave, or you wouldn't be surprised if he's gone next summer. And from my perspective, maybe I'm just being ignorant, or maybe it's just because I spend too much time on Twitter, but I don't think Mbappé is leaving. I don't think there's animosity. I certainly don't think that he and Neymar are best buddies. I think it's pretty clear that Mbappé is close to a lot of the French guys in the squad, as well as Hakimi, and I don't see them being in the same friend group. If you've ever played Football Manager on PC or anything, I feel like they're in different social groups. If anyone who plays Football Manager, you'll know what I'm talking about there. But I don't think they're best buds, but I don't think there's this thing. I do think that Mbappé is maybe a little selfish in the way where, he wants to take penalties. I get the feeling he doesn't hate the idea of padding his stats, but I really think most of this has been just insanely overblown by the French media, as well as Spanish media. I think there's some clapback from the Madrid media for Mbappé snubbing them in May, but overall, I mean, we know how the French media is. I think the French media would be more excited than anyone if France didn't win the World Cup here. And
that's so true.
So it's just like, I just get the feeling that people just kind of want to see us fail. Where we've got a spotlight on us, and I'm not saying we're we're ultra hated. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's just football. But yeah, I really think so much of it is overblown. You know, it came to a point where we were just talking about every Champions League match day. We were just wondering, hey, what kind of ridiculous headline's going to come out, you know, the day before this one? You know, let's see what L'Equipe comes up with this time. So, yeah, I personally think it's kind of overblown.
It's not even, you know, a day or so before. It's literally hours before. Wasn't it before the Juventus match when the news about Mbappe wanting to leave broke? It's like hours.
Was it? Yeah, was it that one? I can't remember
It was
off
it
the top
was
of my head.
definitely a Champions League game, and that
Yep.
news broke. And you know, we also had the news, speaking of the French media, where they're like, how dare they take a private plane? Why are they flying, you know, commercial? They should be sitting in coach and,
Oh,
you know, getting the little bag of peanuts and everything. And it's like
uh-huh.
Messi can't fly commercial, guys. And I also think that Mbappe and Neymar, you're right. I don't think they're best buddies, and some of the things they do, they're just feeding into what the media wants, and they will take any little morsel, any kind of controversy, and blow it up. And you know, the clowns over in Madrid would love nothing more than to just print this on the front page and just sell papers and get clicks and cause all kind of drama and force Mbappe to come out and say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that I wanted to leave, which I think is what he basically said. And ever since that moment, you've heard nothing. It's been crazy. It wouldn't be a PSG season without some drama, but I think you're right. I don't think at this point, I don't think Mbappe's leaving. Even if he wanted to, I don't think Nasser would sell at this point unless someone came in with like an outrageous bid. But even then, I still can't imagine they would. So anyway, not to, it was drama filled first half of the season, but I think PSG pushed through it. We'll see what happens in the second half of the season. But Ethan, anything else on the drama that you want to touch on?
No, I think we got it all. You know, expect some pretty spicy headlines from L'Equipe and from Marca right before the Bayern match. I bet right around right after the Super Bowl. That's on the 12th, that Sunday. Expect the next day, the 13th. Expect to see a nice spicy headline about Mbappe. It'll probably be something about how he, I don't know, how he's wearing a Madrid shirt underneath his PSG kit, or there'll be something silly, I'm sure. But yeah, everyone look out for that one. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, he played as Liverpool in FIFA, who I think Liverpool are looking for a new owner, so maybe they want to make a big splash and come after Mbappe. Maybe that's what they'll kind of tie all those angles together and come up with some stupid article. Last question on the first half of the season is, what are your expectations for the second half of the season? And I'm not going to ask, are they going to win the Champions League? But do you expect PSG to beat Bayern Munich? Do you expect them to continue rolling through Ligue 1? Or do you think this World Cup in the middle of the season is just going to completely disjoint the squad and it's going to take a month to get up and running and maybe we crash out to Bayern? What do you think? What are you expecting?
Well, you know, I would say it's so tough to predict, but if it does take us a month to kind of get back into form, then no worries because we don't have the most insanely difficult league schedule that first month back. We're going to have about 6 weeks since from December 28th. That's our next match. It's a Liga match. I think it's against Strasbourg or something like that.
Well, actually, we've got two friendlies. So PSG will play on December 16th against Paris FC. So that'll be fun. And then versus a team I'm not a French speaker and I can't even pronounce it. Quevely Rowan Metropole, whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah.
QRM. We'll go with that.
Yeah, it's QR. Yeah, that's typically what I say. My French is not that good. I'm working on the accent, but
There you go.
I don't want to try and say Quevely. I'm just going to butcher it if I try it anymore. So
it sounded better than my pronunciation.
I know. Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, I've been working on it. I come from a French American family, so you know, I took it upon myself to try and keep up the heritage, so to say. So, but no, I think we do have those two friendlies. You know, I'm actually kind of random prediction here. I bet Paris FC is going to have a big old. I don't know where that match is being played. Is it being played at the park?
Or is it says at the Camp de Lodge, so that's the training facility.
Oh, we're playing at our training facility? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if they're playing over at Paris FC, that's in South Paris. But I bet their fans, if they're fans to that, I bet they'll turn up real well. So But no, other than those friendlies, it might take us a month to get back. As long as we don't have any crippling injuries during the World Cup, then I'm pretty happy with that. I said at the beginning of the season that I think we'll make the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and that was obviously, before the group stage, before the round of 16 draw. I still don't think we're winning the Champions League this year, which is fine. I think, I get that is our primary goal, but this expectation, this desire to win the Champions League, it's warranted, but I feel like from some people it's almost too much of a focus to where, we don't want to be trying to I don't know, go all in. If any of you guys are NFL fans, the Rams went all in last year and won the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen very often. We can't be doing that every year. I feel like that's the kind of move that inspired us to sign Wijnaldum and Ramos last year, build a dream team, and it's just not sustainable for a sporting project like we've got, especially with all the young guys we've got that are riding pine. There are dudes like Garby, Emery, and we've got Bitshiabu on the bench, but I don't expect us to win the Champions League, but you'll hear it here first. I do think we're beating Bayern. I think we're gonna probably just squeeze out of that game, and I think we will I think we'll do a lot better. I think we could honestly take care of business relatively simply if we do something that I don't think we're going to do. I don't think Galtier is going to want to do this, but if we sit back and play a shameless low block like Villarreal did against Bayern last year and just hit them on the counter, obviously we've got the dudes that can hit them on the counter. If we do that, I could see us coming out of that game pretty well. Obviously, Bayern has a great attack. I'm sure they'll score goals. But if we sit back in a low block, Galtier is all too familiar with doing that, as he's been at, Nice and Saint-Etienne most of his career. But it wouldn't surprise me if we played real defensive, let them have 65% of the ball, and then you see some of the scariest counterattacks you've ever seen with Verratti or Vitinha trying to launch balls into Neymar or Mbappe. So I think if we do that, I think we're going to beat them. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, and we've beaten them before, and they've beaten us, so we certainly have recent history between the two sides. I think you're right. I like our chances. There's really no one at Bayern that I fear, that I'm really worried about, whereas if I were a Bayern Munich fan, I'd be like, oh, God, I got to face Mbappe, and then Neymar's in the form of his life, and then Messi's over here too. Like, I would be worried. But also for Bayern, they know our defense can be gotten at. They know our midfield could be better outside of Verratti, and we never know. Maybe he only plays in one game because he's suspended for the next. We have no idea what's going to happen there, but I think this is a really good battle between two sides that are close in talent, but I think maybe we have the edge in talent just by a little bit. So that's why I think that we're going to be able to get through. It all really depends, like you said, injuries through the World Cup, who can get back into form better. So looking at the fixtures, we talked about the friendlies, but then you've got January 1st, a road match going to Lens. So second place in Ligue 1, really good team this season. So that's going to be good. And then I'm just kind of looking through here. When is the Bayern match? Yeah, the first one's going to be on Valentine's Day, February 14th. At the park. We get them at home first, so I think at that game, just got to put it to them. We play Monaco right before that, so that'll be a good test. I like the way the schedule is setting up for PSG, so I'm with you. I think we get through, and then after that, it's a crapshoot. You don't know who you're going to play and who's healthy. It's difficult to predict, so I think we get through Bayern. I think we win Ligue 1. I think it's going to be a good second half of the season. So let's turn our attention now to the World Cup. That kicks off tomorrow. We're recording this on Saturday. So Qatar and Ecuador kick things off in the World Cup. A lot of PSG players are going to be representing their nations. Mbappe for France. You got Vitinha, Danilo, and Mendes for Portugal. Carlos Soler and Sarabia for Spain. Messi, of course, for Argentina. Neymar, Marquinhos for Brazil. Hakimi with Morocco. And I almost always forget this, but Keylor Navas with Costa Rica. Can't forget about him. So This is likely going to be the last World Cup for Messi. You have to believe that. And then it's also probably going to be the last one for Neymar in his prime. And not to mention the amount of quality that the Brazil team has coming through. I can't imagine in 4 years he's going to be a starter in that team with the talent they have coming through. So, what do you expect from both of them in this tournament?
Well, I know that for Argentina, everyone is going to be playing like it's the last day of their lives for Messi. We all know that De Paul and Otamendi, those are dudes that are going to. I'm sure they would sacrifice their careers to try and get Messi just a chance to score in the final. So we know that Argentina will be going nuts. Yeah, Brazil is probably the favorite for me. I just think overall they've got the most quality. I feel like under their manager, what is it? Tite, is that how you say his name? Yeah, he's been there so long. It feels like maybe he hasn't been as long as I think, but I feel like he's been there forever.
He's been there, yeah, a long time.
Yeah, and I feel like that squad is going to be dialed in. So it wouldn't surprise me if Brazil won it. Yeah, and about what you said for Keylor Navas, yeah, we kind of forget that one as he hasn't even played a single minute this year, but when he's between the posts for Costa Rica, I could see them scrounging out some 0-0 draws or something like that, barring he's not super rusty. He could be super out of form. Hopefully not, but yeah, I always like seeing Keylor Navas do well, unless he's playing the U.S., of course, like he did in that last World Cup qualifier. But
yeah, Costa Rica always gives the U.S. trouble, and just looking here, Keylor Navas is going to be in a group with Spain, Germany, and Japan. So you don't like their odds, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you. I like Brazil. They're looking at their Group G. I can't really see anyone there giving them a tough test. And then over in Argentina, they've got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. So I think both Neymar and Messi, as long as things go the way we all expect, they're going to be in the knockout stage, and we'll have to see what happens from there. It's hard to predict. I think Neymar, just given the form, both of them, Neymar and Messi, incredible form with PSG right now. They both want it. I think it would be fantastic if we could see them go head to head in the final. I think that would be amazing. I think I can't think of any teams that are head and shoulders above either one of those. There was the news today that broke maybe a couple hours ago that Karim Benzema for France is going to be out. We know Kimpembe had to drop out, and Nkunku, former PSG player, he's not with France. So I think France, for me, has fallen down a peg. Now we'll have to see if Mbappe can lead them. He's certainly capable of it. He's in a group where he should get out with Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. But I think Argentina and Brazil right now have to be up there as maybe the two top favorites. Maybe England. I don't know. Is there another team that you think, a lot of people like Belgium, but they're aging? Is there another team that you think can compete with the Brazil and Argentina right now?
Yeah, I think Spain might do okay. I know that a lot of people were criticizing their managers' selections, leaving out experienced guys like Ramos, and he originally didn't even select Balde until just a day or two ago due to a couple injuries. But I could see Spain doing well, and maybe it's just me. I'm a bit of a homer, as I mentioned earlier. My ancestry is all traced back to France, so when the U.S. is not in a competition, I've always been rooting for France. And yeah, the injuries are brutal. Benzema this morning, that one might hurt, although I believe Giroud will probably step in and do a decent job. As I feel like he and Mbappe have just a great partnership up front. But I think even with the injuries, I know people don't have a bunch of faith in Didier Deschamps, but I just think you can't ever count out France. I don't know. It's tough to say. I feel like they can turn it on at any moment. I feel like when healthy, they might have the best young core of players in the entire world, probably next to Brazil.
Their under 18 squad could probably qualify for this tournament. Like, it's unbelievable the talent they have.
Probably could, yeah. Yeah, so I'm never going to count them out. I mean, that midfield, it's the Real Madrid midfield with Tchouaméni and Camavinga. I don't think Camavinga is I don't think he's starting. He was. I'm almost thinking right now, was he even selected? I think he was, but I would expect him to start. The Deschamps picking two Marseille midfielders though, Guendouzi and Vertu, was a bit weird, and I hope they Guendouzi might be a good fit, but I hope Veretout doesn't see a minute. I don't have faith in that guy for France, but yeah, I mean, just they could always, you know, this is the World Cup is really just you have to get hot at the right moment, and I'm never going to put it past France to have a chance.
It wasn't Deschamps, wasn't he a Marseille guy? So that might explain the two
Yeah,
picks, the
yeah,
two
maybe that's
midfielders.
it. Yeah, I just think even despite that, how can you pick Veretout there? I don't know, weird, but everything else I kind of get, but that's just a weird pick for me.
Yeah,
They didn't take Dimitri Payet, did they? I don't think they did. He better not
I
be.
certainly hope not. I can
Yeah,
pull it up
I
real quick.
I don't think they did, but if they did, then I think that guy is maybe a little too much of a homer, which is
Yeah.
probably maybe that's why this will be his last World Cup regardless. I'm sure Zidane will probably take over after this year, but
He did take our old friend Adrian Rabiot, who's been playing pretty good this season.
he did,
Youssef
yeah.
Fofana at Monaco will be there, which it leads me to my next question. Is there's a lot. The League on Uber Eats Twitter account tweeted out all the players in the league that are going to be at the World Cup, and there are a lot of players from the league that are going to be there, which is great. And a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
good.
young guys that people haven't heard of, and I think they can make a name for themselves. So that's my question: is there anyone in particular that you have your eye on as maybe making a name for himself that's really going to be able to stand out, whether it's a PSG player or someone else in the league? But who do you have your eye on from the league?
Oh gosh, I honestly don't know too much of the rest of the league of who's represented, but I think that not that his stock could be any higher as he's playing for Real Madrid, but I think Tchouaméni is going to go off this World Cup, and I wouldn't hate to see that as a basically that I'm a France supporter outside the U.S. But I honestly don't know a lot of the list of the other guys, so I want to know who do you have a certain player in mind? I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
Chouamini I think was great, and as much as because I also like to root for France as my second team behind the U.S., it would just bring a tear because he should be at PSG, but I know he wanted to be at Real Madrid, so whatever. I kind of have my eye on a guy that came in. He's going to replace Kimpembe, which is Axel Disasi from Monaco. He is a player that I think is a fantastic center back. He's doing great things there at Monaco, and you could argue that he probably should have been chosen over Kimpembe to begin with. So he comes in and he's a player that I rate him so highly. I think he's fantastic. I would love this summer. I think there's been some rumors that maybe Campos is looking at him. Maybe you could bring him in. I think that would be a brilliant signing. I think that Monaco pipeline of the talent they have coming through. We mentioned what is it? Chouamini, came from Monaco. So I just think anytime you can go shopping at the Monaco grocery store, you have to do it. And Disasi is a fantastic player, so he's definitely a guy that I would love to see come into PSG. I rate him very highly. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get with all the injuries. Maybe he gets in there and shows us a thing or two. So definitely got my eye on him. Looking through here, Belgium, Jeremy Doku. I think he's a guy that could do something. Just kind of looking through here. He plays at Stade Rennais. A lot of
Really?
young talent. Yeah, a lot of young talent that is coming through. Even with our U.S. team, with Tim Weah. Let me ask you about him. Do you think he gets much playing time? I think he should. I think he's a really good goal scorer, and not PSG. The U.S. team needs that. What do you think of him with the U.S. team? And if you want to talk about USA for a minute, what your expectations for them are?
Yeah, so about Way, it's tough to say. I think he may be the best choice at the. I know he plays both striker and right wing, I believe. I do think that Greg Berhalter is probably going to play Josh Sargent there. Wouldn't surprise me. He might even play Ferreira, which, gosh, I can't remember where he transferred, but he's an FC Dallas product, which they've probably got the best youth academy in the U.S. or the MLS.
Is he
Um,
still there? Is he still at Dallas?
I'm almost certain he transferred to the Netherlands somewhere.
Ah, okay.
I think he's transferred to Europe. I can't remember. I don't follow him super closely, but I don't expect him to. I don't expect Way to get a lot of playing time, but I feel like he could do good. But as far as the U.S. in general, if you'd asked me a month ago, do you think we're getting out of the group? I probably would have said no. If you ask me now, I think not that there's been a bunch of injuries to the other teams in our group, but we are coming out relatively unscathed. I was actually telling my buddies this morning while we were watching college football games. They go to me as their soccer/football guy, um, and I was saying I think it's we've had injuries to basically everyone. Like I feel like McKennie and Dest and Christian Pulisic. I feel like those dudes have never been healthy at the same time, all at the same time in the past 2-3 years, and I feel like that's the case now. So as long as Greg Berhalter can manage tactically pretty well, then I think we'll get out of the group, and I think we're going to be playing probably the Netherlands. They'll probably win Group A, especially that now that Senegal doesn't have Sadio Mane, but. Um, I think if we got to the Netherlands, if we lose to them, I'd say that's fair. I just we need to get out of the group, and I do think we will now. Like I said, if you had asked me a month ago, I think I would have said no, but I think we do now. I just think we're a better team than Wales, um, and I don't expect a lot from Iran. Although, I think Asian football is kind of thought down on by a lot of people. I feel
Yeah.
like Iran will be better than we expect, but we should beat them. Um,
They have
but
plenty of supporters there, I think, as well.
oh
So
yeah,
that could be
yeah,
tough.
they're honestly, yeah, they're not too far from Qatar.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think we'll get out of the group. But my biggest concern is Greg Berhalter's quote unquote system that he uses. Although if you look at any 5 matches across any time period, the U.S. men's national team plays with no system. They're basically, I feel like they just kind of move as the wind blows them. So if we actually have a set tactic down, if we're going to play a heavy Gegenpress or something, or if we're going to be trying to play through the middle, just I feel like they almost just need to pick something. Just pick something and then work on it and train it and ingrain it in the philosophy of the team because I feel like right now there's no philosophy. But if we get a good system going and the play is fluid, then I'd expect us to get out of the group.
I don't know. The group is going to be tough. For me, I like a lot of some of the individual parts. And by the way, Jesus Ferreira is still at FC Dallas. He did not transfer. Signed a designated player contract with FC Dallas, keeping him at the club until 2025, according to his Wikipedia page. So, and that's sort of one issue I have. So you do have pieces like Pulisic who have been tested. They've been on the big stage before. I just think the U.S. team has too many players that they're going to rely upon who are just MLS tested. And I'm an MLS fan. I'm a season ticket holder to Real Salt Lake. I know that you're a LAFC guy. Congratulations on your
Yes.
championship.
Oh
So
man, I was so
we're
excited for that. Yeah.
so
Yeah,
this is yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say Kellen Acosta is in the U.S. squad, and he plays for LAFC. He even scored a goal in the MLS Cup final. Um, just watch for him on set pieces. I think he's going to be there. I don't think he'll start most games, but yeah, he's going to be the U.S.'s set piece guy. But yeah, that was I was pretty excited to see us lift the trophy 2 weeks ago. Still pretty excited about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
Well, and Gareth Bale scored a goal in that as well for Wales, so we'll see him in Group B. No, but I was saying that I kind of talking about our fandom for MLS. So this is not to disparage the league, but I just think we have too many players that are in that league, and just to be honest, it's not at the level of some of these European leagues. And so, is this going to be a little bit of culture shock, where not culture shock, but just like sports shock? Like, oh my God, these guys are a lot bigger and faster and talented than playing against some guys in Orlando, whatever their team name is. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the quality is so different. Do we have too many guys that aren't tested on that big stage? CONCACAF has gotten better. Canada won. They're a
Yeah.
fantastic team. Um, but I just wonder if that's going to be, going against a team like England, where you have a bunch of Premier League stars coming at you. Is the difference in quality going to be too much for them? That's going to be a really interesting game. What are your expectations for that?
For the England game,
Yeah,
this is maybe a hot take, but I know Walker Zimmerman is in the MLS. He plays for Nashville. He's a former LAFC
yeah.
defender. I think he's won MLS Defender of the Year like 4 years in a row, or he's been in the Team of the Year 4 years in a row. I'm not even joking. I might take him over Harry Maguire for England. So, um,
That's true.
I,
Harry Maguire. There was a lot of controversy over
oh
him
yeah,
being selected just because he is Harry Maguire and has a
oh,
big transfer fee. But when you look at it, he's not very good.
No, I feel like he is a mid-table Premier League player at best. Not at best. I mean, I feel like he would do fine on a team like Aston Villa or my outside of France. My heritage comes from Southampton, so I'm a Southampton supporter as well, and I watch their games, and I feel like he'd be a great guy on one of those kind of teams. But yeah, it's just, I feel like England, yes, they have the talent, but I almost feel like it's maybe England has a case of what we had, PSG as a club last year. We have all these stars and we have all these big names, but there's no cohesive system. They don't play as a team. And I honestly, I still think England will probably beat us. They'll probably beat us like 3-1 or 3-0 or something, but I don't expect England to do too much just because I feel like they've got the issue that PSG had last year. I wouldn't have a lot of faith in Southgate if I was an England supporter. I do think they'll still beat us, but yeah,
Did well in the Euros. Did well in the Euros. Got to the final, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they went to the final, and then the goalkeeper goat Donnarumma stepped up and
Oh yeah,
saved.
that guy, the PSG guy.
Oh yeah, that was I was excited. That was before he had even played a game for us because the signing I think was basically uh, everyone knew. It's just
Yeah.
they had to do everything but announce it, and then
Right.
stepped up in that Euros final. Yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I still think England will beat us, but I don't have a bunch of faith for
Yeah.
them. I feel like they could be the disappointment of the tournament.
Let's turn it back to PSG for a second, because do you think that there's a problem that the French squad that, Kimpembe was selected but injured, but if you look at it just now, Mbappe is the only representative from PSG on the French team. Do you think that bothers Mbappe? Do you think he would prefer more of his teammates on the national team joining him in Paris? And is that the players just not wanting to be there? Is that him not being able to convince them? Or is that Luis Campos and the leadership saying we want to look elsewhere? Do you think it's a problem that for Mbappe? Do you think it bothers him? We talk about the clicks and all that. Does he want more of his friends, more French speakers in the PSG team?
I was actually thinking of that the other day, and I think it is a good step that Galtier. We've got a French-speaking French head coach. I bet he probably would like a couple more PSG guys. And yeah, when I was looking at that list, and once Kimpembe was omitted, it's just Mbappe. Most guys play in the Bundesliga or La Liga or just elsewhere, but yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. I do think that Mbappe would probably like another friend or two, but I also think the guy understands what Campos is doing. He understands that PSG isn't. We're not going to be one of those clubs that, as bad as some people want it. We're not going to have 90% French players. Even back in our first golden era in the early and mid 90s, we had so many Brazilian players on those teams. So I think I don't hate the diversity that Campos and Galtier have at PSG, and I don't think it's going to be an issue personally. I think if Mbappe, I just can't see him having such an issue with it that it causes problems. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, hopefully he understands. I think he would like a few more of his friends, maybe. I mean, the one player that I look at is Christopher Nkunku. I would do anything to have him back at PSG. I know he's just, had an injury, but I rate him so highly. I wish he didn't leave. I didn't understand why he left because he was playing, he was doing well, and he's a player I would love to have back. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I think it's something to think about with Mbappe. Does he want more French-speaking players into the team that he maybe can feel closer with? Players, like an Nkunku and some of the others in the team. So we'll have to see. But it's up to Campos. He's a great identifier of talent, and I don't think he cares what language they speak or where they come from. If they can do a job, he's going to bring them in. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, we're coming up on time, Ethan. So I want to get two more questions for you. So looking at the group stage of the World Cup, give me a surprise, whether it's a big team not going through or a team like Qatar maybe making it out of the group. Do you see any surprises when you look at all the groups?
Yeah, I actually filled out my World Cup bracket I think yesterday, and I'm having trouble finding it right now as you're saying that. But without looking at the groups off the top of my head, Qatar should. The only way Qatar is going to make it to the knockout rounds is if all those bribery rumors that we heard yesterday are actually real. But I wouldn't expect it. No, I think they've got a decent team, Qatar. But no, as far as big upsets, I think Serbia might do really well. I just feel like they don't. I feel like they don't have any. They've got a couple good guys, I believe, that play in Serie A. But it wouldn't surprise me if Serbia made a run. I just feel like they're a bit poised for it. Although, to be honest, I don't have mounds of evidence to back that up. Kind of just a gut feeling. I don't think Mexico will do well. They're too old. I think they almost need to do a rehaul or reshuffle the team like the U.S. had to in 2018. Um, as far as that, let's see. I can't remember if Alphonso Davies is playing for Canada. They
Hmm.
typically play him as a winger or a forward,
Yeah.
but I think he might have been hurt. I can't remember, but I think people are sleeping on Canada, and I know they're technically our rivals, but I would love to see them do well. I think that group is winnable. I think they're in the same group as Belgium and can't remember who else, but I could see them going through and they could make a run too.
Yeah, just looking at the news, it looks like Davies may not play against Belgium. Would be a huge game. It doesn't look like he's going to be healthy enough for that one. Maybe he can come back and on the back end of the group stage and help out. A lot of people, I think, Canada maybe is everyone's has a soft spot for them because you don't normally see them in these tournaments. So that's certainly a team to keep an eye on. I think for me, if I'm seeing a surprise, just looking at everything here. I think in that group F, I'm gonna say Morocco gets through. This might be my love of Hakimi coming through, but I think they've got a really good team there, and I think that they can get it done. I think it's gonna be Belgium and Morocco getting through. That's gonna be my surprise. So keep an eye on Morocco. I think if there's a big team that's gonna go down, I don't like what I'm seeing out of Portugal with Cristiano Ronaldo and
I was just gonna say that. That was gonna be
I
my
I don't think they're going through. I think Ghana isn't maybe what we've seen in the past, but I could see Uruguay and Korea Republic there, South Korea going through. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, that was going to be my next point. So kind of read my mind there. I don't think Portugal's getting out of their group. Um I think if they're really going to, and this is no disrespect to Ronaldo, I like him. It's just he is not, the World Cup, you want to be playing guys that are in form. He should not probably be starting for Portugal right now. And that's not a knock to him. Well, okay, it is a little bit of a knock, but like they've got other guys that have been doing really well this season. They've got a lot of guys in the Premier League and La Liga that have been lighting it up that they selected. In that group, Group H, I've got Uruguay topping it, and then I think the Ghana South Korea game is going to decide who gets out of that. Wouldn't surprise me if South Korea got out of it. Like I said earlier, I think Asian football is kind of slept on. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a good call. And also, for some reason, I always like Switzerland. So that's in Group G. I could see them going through with Brazil. I know you like Serbia as your gut feeling. Cameroon can always surprise, but I really like Switzerland. They've got Briel Mbolo from Monaco. He's another really good player. Keep an eye on him. So yeah, those are a couple of our surprises. So I got two more questions. Second to the last one is who wins it all? Is it Brazil?
yeah, I'm probably going Brazil. I don't remember exactly who they're going to play at each point of the bracket as they, depending on who places where, but I think Brazil is going to win it. I think if I had to pick a team out of Europe to do it, um, I think just Germany's always. I think they've had a couple injuries, but unfortunately, the unluckiest international man in the world, Marco Reus, is missing another international tournament for Germany. But I feel like
Goodness.
Germany is just always consistent. And one player I didn't mention when we were talking our Bayern match is I think Thomas Mueller is hilarious. I think he's so funny, and I think he's also extremely underrated. If that guy was in the Premier League or La Liga, I think he would be getting goat shouts from people. So I could definitely see Mueller carrying that. Yeah, that's yeah. I feel like you can't sleep on that guy, and he's also just so funny. I know some people think he's unlikable, but I like his demeanor. I think that's kind of how I might be if I was a professional footballer.
It's yeah, he's a good guy. So but hopefully we take him out of the Champions League. But yeah, he does have his moments. Um I think for me, my buddy was telling me that Brazil whenever there's a World Cup not in Europe, Brazil has won the World Cup 50% of the time. So I really like those odds. So I think I'm leaning towards Brazil. But typically when there's like all that expectation, people think you're going to win, then it doesn't happen. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Argentina to win. Like you said, I think there's guys that are going to be like dying on the pitch to get Messi to the final and let him win. And I just think that's going to be that they have that motivation factor. So I'm going to go with Argentina. It's not just Messi. I mean, they have a really, really good squad. So I'm going to go with them as my favorite. Okay, last question, Ethan. Will Qatar sell PSG after the World Cup?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Although I know they're probably the best owners we've had since the club was publicly owned in the 80s. But I don't see them selling it, although I wouldn't hate if they sold it, but maybe that's just me thinking I'm sick of us getting slandered on social media for our owners, as if we can even choose who our owners are. But no, I don't think they'll sell PSG. I think, yeah, they obviously probably bought PSG in anticipation for that World Cup that they were awarded 10, 12 years ago, but I think they'll hold on to it. I think PSG is their they're getting their foot in the door to the global stage. Obviously, this World Cup is massive, but I feel like for them to stay culturally, and relevant in a way, I think they'll hang on to PSG. I don't expect them to try and sell the club and buy Liverpool in the next 2 months. I just think that's probably a bit too much to ask. Like, there's so much legal stuff you got to go through for that. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw how hard it was for the Saudis to buy, was it Newcastle? So
yeah.
I think along those lines, I'm kind of with you. Not only do I think they won't sell PSG just because they've been there for more than a decade now, and the players that they brought in, the success that they've had, I think they'll buy another team. I think what's missing from PSG is they don't have that sort of like feeder team that like a Manchester City has. So do they buy an MLS team? Do they buy a League Two team? Do they go and buy a championship team in England? I think they double down, and I think they buy another team somewhere, a lower level team that they can send some of these youngsters to play, so they stop losing them to like Germany and other leagues. And I know there's been some rumors of that, right, where in France that they were going to buy a team, and I don't think it's happened yet. So I think they double down. I think they buy another team.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I haven't heard anything about them buying another club in France, but don't they have partial ownership of SC Braga in Portugal now? I believe they do. But yeah,
I can look that up real quick.
It definitely wouldn't hurt for them to build a city football group, kind of a thing that Man City has, where they've basically got a football club or two on every continent, obviously barring Antarctica. I know they've got Melbourne City. I think they've even got a Japanese or a Korean team. They've got a couple clubs in Europe. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad move for them at all.
And you're right. The QSI's got a minority stake in Braga, so they're dipping their toes. Manchester City, they've got NYCFC here in the MLS. Maybe they come over here and get a team in the US. And I don't know, are there any MLS teams currently for sale?
Not that I know of. No.
Yeah. Maybe they'll come in and buy the Washington Commanders or the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe they'll get into the NFL and cause chaos.
That would be hilarious. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, Ethan, I think we're coming up on time. I've kept you here long enough. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You were fantastic. Let everyone know how they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at PSG_Boise.
Boise, there you go. All right. And you can always find me at PSG Talk on Twitter. Visit psgtalk.com. Our writers are cranking out the articles as we speak. They're going to be covering the World Cup and all of the PSG players there representing their nation. So good stuff over there. Check that out. And I don't know, maybe mid-tournament, maybe after the group stage, we'll do another pod or something. We'll try to get back on a normal schedule with these podcasts. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. And we'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.